Hey, I'm Andrew Connell. What you're about to watch is the overview lesson to one of the chapters in my MS-600 exam prep guide course. This course is available for purchase on my site, voitanos.io. I'll include a link to it in the description below the video. This overview video, which is the first lesson of the chapter that you selected, gives you an idea of what the chapter is going to cover. You can learn more by checking out the description below the video about this chapter. If you've got any questions about the chapter or the course, just drop a comment below the video and I'll be sure to get back to you. So with that, let me get out of the way. Enjoy the overview lesson from this chapter. Hello and welcome back. In this chapter, I'm going to focus on two sections that were added to the MS-600 exam in the August 2022 update. This chapter, it doesn't map to a workload like most of the other chapters in this course. The first of these two sections is called Design Collaborative App Solutions and Existing App Integrations, and it focuses on the aspects related to designing and planning a Microsoft 365 app solution based on the customer requirements. And it covers not just new apps, but also how you can take existing apps and integrate them into Microsoft Teams. The other section is called Test, Deploy, Monitor, Maintain Modern Enterprise-Grade App Solutions, and it focuses on aspects related to the actual creation, rollout, and post-rollout lifecycle of an app. Now I'm combining both of these functional areas into a single chapter at this time because both are fairly small when you compare it to the other chapters in the course that are each dedicated to a single workload. Each of these two sections of the exam, also known as functional areas, are only going to count for 5 to 10% of the questions in the question pool that can show up when you take the exam. Just to be clear, the Design Collaborative App Solutions and Existing App Integrations functional area accounts to 5 to 10% of the exam questions, and the other one, Test, Deploy, Monitor, and Maintain Modern Enterprise-Grade App Solutions, it also accounts for 5 to 10% of the exam questions. Now, in my experience, I think it might be even less than that, or the questions are mixed in with other technical questions that you're going to get throughout other parts of the exam. Now, let's look at the depth of knowledge that you need to have in this chapter. Recall Bloom's taxonomy from the overview chapter in this course? Let's use that to provide some context around what you need to know, because it helps to understand how deeply you should know something before you embark on studying for that topic. And this helps you grasp the level of the questions that you're going to see on the exam. Now, when you look at the skills checklist that Microsoft provides for the MS-600 exam, you're going to notice that most of the skills use the following words: define, evaluate, and plan. And that's just for this chapter. These phrases only fall under the first two lower levels of the spectrum of the taxonomy. And that means that for this section of the exam, we're only going to focus on the lower order thinking skills like remembering and understanding only. Now, let's take a minute to explore what lessons that you're going to find in this chapter so you know what you can expect as you proceed through the rest of this chapter. In this current overview lesson, you're going to learn what the Design Collaborative App Solutions chapter is all about. And in the next slide, I'm going to wrap up this lesson with some additional learning resources. So be sure to check the notes under this lesson and in the video below for a collection of all the external references that I use throughout this chapter. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to look at the process of examining existing app integration opportunities and a customer's adoption levels of Microsoft Teams. This includes using the maturity model for Microsoft 365, as well as identifying opportunities for no-code and low-code solutions instead of building brand new solutions as a developer. Then I'll discuss some of the design tasks that you need to be familiar with in both the user experience sense, like branding and theming of your apps, and the tasks that cover creating development and production environments. And in the last lesson in this chapter, I'm going to wrap up our discussion by looking at the design tasks related to authentication considerations, designing a solution to address customer requirements, and defining success criteria for your project using key performance indicators or KPIs. Now, just like all the other chapters in this course, I'm keeping the depth of the explanation to the level of what you need to know in order to pass the exam. I'm not going to try to go deep with my explanations because this is an exam prep course. It's not intended to teach you everything about the topic. There are plenty of other resources available to you that you can leverage if you aren't familiar with a particular topic. And when I cover something in the course, you might think, okay, I got that. I'm comfortable with my knowledge on this topic. But If you think to yourself, I don't get it, or if you aren't familiar with a process or an API or a pattern that I cover, then you should go read the official documentation or study one of the multiple resources that I'm referencing throughout this chapter of the course to make sure you're adequately familiar for the topic prior to taking the exam. Now, I'm going to reference specific resources through the course, but as I said, be sure to check the notes for this lesson under the video for a collection of all the external resources and references that I use throughout this chapter. And unlike other chapters, there's no Microsoft Learning resources to provide for this section of the exam. And also, unlike other chapters, I don't have any practice questions included in the course for this section of the exam. As I said, it's a very small section, and any of the topics that are already rolled into questions that are coming from other parts of the exam. Okay, that wraps up my overview. And in the next lesson, we're going to dive into the first topic that you need to be familiar with, assessing Microsoft Teams maturity and existing integration opportunities for your apps. So I'll see you in the next lesson.